Seen Norm Coleman's latest attack ad against me. In this ad, Senator Coleman looks the people of Minnesota in the eye and lies by blaming me for something that I had absolutely nothing to do with. Let me be clear. The Star Tribune has said that they didn't receive information about this lawsuit until after it was filed. They didn't receive any information about this lawsuit from our campaign, period. This isn't about me, this is about money. This is about a man named Nazar Kazmini. Nazar Kazmini is one of Norm Coleman's biggest contributors and closest friend. He's the man who flew Norm Coleman free on his private jet for vacations in the Bahamas and Paris. This is about a lawsuit filed against Nazar Kazmini by the Republican CEO of a company in Texas that I've never heard of. This is about a sworn affidavit describing a conspiracy to funnel $100,000 to a sitting United States senator. And for Norm Coleman to try to deflect attention from this incredibly serious matter by attacking me with false claims is simply insulting to voters who have a right to know the facts before the election. This lawsuit in Texas, that's Nazar Kazmini's problem and Norm Coleman's problem. This ad and Norm Coleman's attempt to make it my problem instead, well, that's simply shameful. There are so many important issues to talk about in this race and important choices for voters to make on Tuesday. I am not a politician, and I thought I had seen everything there was to see in this race. But really, Minnesota deserves better than this. Thank you, and I'll take your questions.
What do you do to convince Joe Sixpack, who maybe doesn't read the papers thoroughly and maybe doesn't listen to the NPR story thoroughly, but sees this ad and just assumes that given how much, given the fighting in this race that's been going on for so long, just assumes that you're behind it? How do you convince that person that you're not? And what? It seems like you have a political problem here.
A few days until for you folks to get the truth out. I mean, you know that the Star Tribune has said they didn't receive any information from anybody before the suit was filed, and that's completely contradicts what's even said in this ad. So I call upon the press to make that clear. This is where you have a job.
What do you think about the fact that the DSCC is airing an ad about the allegations in these lawsuits?
Well, as you know, we don't coordinate with the DSCC, but I believe their ad was showing the event in St. Cloud where Senator Coleman just ran away from the reporters who broke this story. And they're the ones from the Star Tribune. So I think it's, you know, it's talking about the fact that he won't answer questions about this. It's a very serious allegation that in a sworn affidavit by a CEO from Texas, who I've never heard of before this happened, at a company I've never heard of that Nazar Kazmini evidently has a controlling interest of, and you know the details in this, and that's what this is about. I had, you know, we had nothing to do with this.
Mr. Franken, do you think that voters will be turned off by the negativity, though, and look at that ad and feel sympathy, and, you know, therefore this will have some backlash against your campaign for whatever reason?
Well, I think that's what Senator Coleman obviously is trying to do by looking at the people, the Minnesota voters in the eye and just lying about this. You know, I'm being blamed for crossing the line, and I didn't do a thing. And our campaign didn't do a thing.
So folks are going to see that DSCC ad and not be able to make the differentiation that you can't control it. I mean, is that being helpful or hurtful?
I don't know. I have no way of, you know, as you know, Eric, we have no way of coordinating with the DSCC, and they're just running an ad that shows what the reporters from the Star Tribune who got this story themselves, and you all know that. You all know that.
Mr. Franken, in laying out this ad, the Coleman campaign mentioned that there was a radio ad run by your campaign on the day that the lawsuit became known that mentioned Nasser Kazmini, and they said it was too much of a coincidence.
I think we've been, I don't know, were we running that ad anyway? Had that been run before?
I believe it had been run.
Yeah, it had been running. It was about Nasser Kazmini flying him to the Bahamas and flying him to Paris, and the thing in Harper's about his buying suits for Coleman. Of course that's something, you know, that this whole idea of integrity and the public culture in Washington is important.
I guess what I'm asking is, are you saying unequivocally that your campaign had no knowledge of this Hayes Deep Marine episode prior to
I think I've said that as unequivocally as I can. We had no knowledge of this until that thing happened up in St. Cloud with the two reporters from the Star Tribune who were the ones who found this story. And the Star Tribune has said that they didn't get any information from anybody prior to the filing.
Are you likely going to put your own ad together in response to Senator Coleman's ad here, and are you working on that right now, or?
I think that's something we're going to have to think about. I mean, right now, I want to be at St. Olaf. We're doing get out the vote rallies. We're talking about getting this economy going again. We're talking about making college affordable to students. We're talking about getting credit to small businesses through the Small Business Administration. We're talking about rebuilding America with an infrastructure package that we've unveiled with Jim Oberstar. We're talking about addressing the housing crisis head on, getting to the root of that. We're talking about a green economy and investing in that so that Minnesota becomes the epicenter of a green economy. We're talking about getting tax cuts in the hands of middle class instead of all these tax cuts for millionaires. That's what this campaign should be about.
Mr. Franken, do you believe the merits in the lawsuit?
I don't know. This is sworn testimony by a CEO. There's evidently a second lawsuit, but I don't know. I don't know anything about that other than what I've read in the newspaper.
Since the opinion of the campaign is this ad is 100% fraudulent, are you going to be filing a complaint in the same vein that, you know, Coleman recently filed a complaint?
Well, this is something evidently that Senator Coleman does in every political campaign. I guess it's the fourth time he's done this, which is he's filed a complaint against his opponent. I don't know. I don't know. We haven't really, that's not the first thing I think of litigating. Maybe it's because I'm not a lawyer.
Last question.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
We get to save that last question for future use then, right? All right.
Just get a credit.